telescope can look out into the part of the night sky we want to see. So right behind you here, you can see the rails. There's two rails there, like railroad tracks, and there's these big wheels that the dome rides on. This dome is 100 feet across from here to the other side, and all the steel in here, in the rotating part of the dome, weighs 500 tons. That's 1 million pounds. And it was all brought up a dirt road on a primitive Mack truck. And when the Mack truck couldn't make the sharp switchback turns on the toll road, that's what the road is called, they would bring a team of mules down and hook it up to the front of the Mack truck to pull the Mack truck around. So this was a combination of vehicles and mules to bring all this stuff up here. Pretty amazing. Everything is hot riveted. There's no bolts here because at the time the technology was to hot rivet it, just like the old skyscrapers in New York. There's no welding because welding didn't exist then. This whole 500-ton dome gets moved with a little 7.5 horsepower motor. That's all it takes. That's how finely balanced this is. And what I want to impress on everybody tonight is the level of craftsmanship that the guys had who built this place. These guys don't exist anymore. The mold was broken after these guys. These guys are the modern pyramid builders, truly. All the stuff that's in this dome and in the 60-inch dome that we're going to go in and look through the telescope, 1908, still works perfectly well today. All we got to do is grease it and lubricate it. Nothing seems to break. Pretty good for 100 years old. In fact, in the 60-inch dome, we have 3 light bulbs that are used as resistance in a motor circuit. I'll flick those on for you. You can see them. Those are 1908 Edison light bulbs, and they're still burning there today.
Wow. Why can't they make them like that anymore?
Now, if you guys along here would step over that way, I want to show you about how this dome is electrically powered. Back around the time this all was built up here in the turn of the 20th century, or 20th century, there was an argument between Thomas Edison and another guy named Nikola Tesla, two great minds, on what's the best way to transmit electrical energy. Tesla liked AC, which is what we have in our houses today. Edison liked DC. Well, Edison won here. Because what they did is they built a control system that runs on DC power. This is all live, by the way. This is 130 volt direct current, and it's all live. These are solenoids and relays that make contacts to move, energize motors to get things moving. These are big knife switches, fuses. This is all the original wiring with the wire tags with the names of the wire on it from 1917. Those are 1917 light bulbs down there.
That's what I got to take a picture of.
Oh, wait till we get to the 60. That's even better because I can light them up for you. So this is what they did back in 1917. We have a big engine called the Fairbanks-Morse gas engine down just a little ways from here, and they used to fire that thing up and generate electricity and charge up batteries, big battery banks, and then they would run the electricity through these control panels to move the telescope and the dome. They did it that way until the early 20s when the Edison company brought up power. It was AC power. And what they did, they didn't have to use that machine anymore, so they just put a special device in called a rectifier to change all the AC to DC so they could keep these panels active. This is bad stuff. Unlike your 110 volt AC at home, if you stick your finger in the socket, you'll get knocked back and you'll feel bad, but you're not going to get killed. You're not going to be electrocuted by it. This is 130 volt DC. If you touch this, it has a tendency to hold you. It won't let you go. Surprisingly enough, nobody has ever been electrocuted at the Mount Wilson Observatory. Amazing. Now, one last thing I want to show you is there's a button that you can push to kill all the power on this panel, so you can work on this panel. And you would think they would put that button in a pretty safe place so you can just walk up and push the button. Well, the button, you see this big knife switch here? This huge knife switch? Right between the two copper blades, there's that little button in there. So like, how lucky do you feel today? So, Rachel knows this. This is called a Darwin filter. People who aren't too smart use their finger. People who are real smart use the wooden stick to push the button. So that's a Darwin filter. So this is the technology used in the 60-inch, the 100-inch, those big solar towers to run the telescopes. This same technology is used in old buildings in Los Angeles to run the elevators. So next time you're in a really old building in LA and you're going up an elevator, this is what's keeping you up. So, and it all works great. Probably better than the modern stuff.
Yeah, probably.
This blue thing right behind Rachel here is the top of the telescope. This is a pretty revolutionary telescope. You can change the tops of the telescope. I can take the top off and put this top on. And there were 4 different tops to the telescope. And what it would do, it would allow you to focus the light at a different point, because for different kind of science, you want to focus light at different places. So there's one that's missing, and it's where this big X is right here. Well, the reason it's missing is because some years ago, the Mount Wilson Observatory got a phone call from the Air and Space Museum, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. They wanted that blue thing because it was the one that Edwin Hubble used in his studies of the expanding universe. It's such a historic and significant piece of science that the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. has it on display right now with a wax figurine of Edwin Hubble. And they're going to bring it back, and we're going to eventually put it in a visitor center we're going to build here in hopefully the next 3 or 4 years.
They're going to give you the wax figure too.
Actually, I don't want to, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about Edwin Hubble. He was a great astronomer, but boy, he was a real tough guy to deal with. Oh yeah. Well, you know, a lot of brilliant people are that way.
House.
Yes. Well, let me tell you what, this guy was House on steroids. Okay, we're going to go back up this way and